the idea of volunteers, quote unquote, being exploited.
Mm-hmm.
And as someone that you run a local church,
Yep.
yet it's not the same as it is in Hillsong. And there's a couple things that are different in Southern California, but this notion that people are exploiting volunteers and doing all this thing, right? Speak into that a little bit, because I think there's some key elements and things that are missing from the conversation, but then there's also some things that are upsides to volunteering.
For sure.
Would you make of that whole sequence?
I've got a lot of thoughts on it.
Okay.
First being, you can always say no. You know, so it's not. I don't want to like shame them and say like, man, you know, you guys were lame for volunteering all those hours and now hating somebody for it. Yeah. But at the same time, like, just say no. I'm like done. But I understand being caught up in a culture though, to where you feel like you can't say no.
Yeah.
And so I think though that volunteering in a church is part of what we do. We're called to be the body of Christ, right? And it says in Ephesians 4 that, you know, God has given apostles, prophets, evangelists, pastors, and teachers to equip the people for works of service. It doesn't say to equip the people so they get paid to do something that a volunteer can do.
Yeah.
You know?
Yep.
And most churches don't make a ton of money because we're all based on donations, tithing. I mean, if everyone tithed, we'd be the body of Christ would be dialed.
Sure. Here's a good question. Are tithes a requirement for leaders in your church? Judah Smith's church got in trouble for mandatory, tithing straight out of their paycheck.
Yep.
What do you think about that?
I think that for me, if you won't trust God with your money, why am I going to trust God's people with you? Does that make sense?
In terms of the staff.
In terms of staff.
Okay.
And so for us, our staff, it's you tithe.
Yeah.
If you don't tithe, I'm not going to fire you.
Yeah.
But it makes me wonder, like,
you're not like pulling out the check and like looking at how much came out for taxes. Did you tithe off the gross or the net, bro?
Yeah.
Where's your heart at, dude?
we're not doing that. But I will ask, like, hey, because money also tells the story, right? Like if you're going to my church and you give $1,000 a month, and all of a sudden you start giving $1,500 a month, and be like, bro, did you get a promotion? Did you get a promotion?
Yeah.
Do I need to celebrate with you because your company recognized that you're awesome?
That's good.
Let's, but all of a sudden you start giving 500, I got to go, do you need our help?
Yeah.
Is something going on?
Yeah.
Did you lose massive income?
Yeah.
Like, dang, bro.
Yeah. Yeah. And so are you keeping track of that kind of stuff intentionally?
For sure. Yeah.
I think the tithing conversation, people are already asking, like, what do you think about tithing? What do you think about this? This is my thoughts on tithing. I think it's an unnecessary divide, because it's like, is it biblical? Is it not biblical? Is it this? Is it that? I think it's a good principle
for sure
to have.
Yeah.
And whether or not it's law or principle, I think it's kind of irrelevant. You know, like if you're a single mom and you can't do 10%, I don't think God's mad at you.
No.
If you're on a fixed income, you can't do 10%, I don't think God's mad at you.
Right.
If you're a single dude with an highly disposable income, and you're only giving 10%, I'm mad at you. I think you're kind of whack for that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, like, I think some of this stuff just gets into like, we need with the letter of the law versus the spirit of the law, and so we made it a point to consistently give above.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
and then when you factor in all the charities and all the other stuff we give to, I think it's ideal to 10%. I think is a good benchmark for most people. But like when people get into like, do you have to or do you not have to? It's like, dude, like it's a good goal to go after, to just say, I want to give 10% of my income. Now, if you can't afford it, I'm not mad at you.
Right.
You know? How do you feel about people who can't tithe in specific seasons? Who maybe it's a single mom, maybe it's a young married couple, they're trying to get out of debt. How do you feel about that kind of stuff?
Man, when it comes, this always sounds weird because I'm a pastor, right? And of course, the church that I pastor is going to benefit off of tithing. But I'll say this, that I've always taken the thing is I can't afford not to tithe. And so there were seasons early on in ministry where we were so poor that literally we were living off of gift cards.
Wow.
And I would tithe off those gift cards.
Off the gift card?
Off the gift card.
How are you getting the money off the gift cards?
It would be, I would say like someone gave us a $25 gift card to like Safeway or Vons or whatever.
Sure.
So I would take $250 of the cash we had and I'd give it.
Whoa. All right. You serious about this?
It sounds a little religious.
Yeah.
I get it, but I'll say we never went without. Never ever did we go without.
Yeah.
And so I think that, again, I think tithing is just, it's the threshold of obedience when it comes to your finances.
Yeah.
And if I'm going to trust God, like if I'm in debt, well, obviously I've been poor money managing.
Yeah.
So I'm still going to give and to get out of debt while I'm giving.
It's so funny. One of our moderators, Future, literally just said it would probably be more helpful for most people to use the term give versus tithe. Right when you said, if I'm at it, I'm still going to give.
I'm still going to give.
We still gave 10% while we were getting out of debt.
Yeah.
And I'm glad we did. I'm glad we didn't stop. And it was a good discipline for us. Sean said, I knew Jeff in those days. Hey, you want to see something kind of crazy? Over 75% of the people that watch this channel are not subscribed. Please consider subscribing and turning your bell notification on so that you don't miss anything we have going here. Here's a good question. Is it weird if your eldership requires members to tithe the full gross before taxes? What do you think?
Is it weird? Yeah.
I think it's weird.
I think it's weird. I do think that's weird. I think it's weird if you're like requiring you better give off your, the full before taxes.
Yeah.
But personally, I give before.
You also get the clergy tax thing.
But I know you mean talking about my housing allowance?
Yeah.
I give off my housing allowance.
Okay. But your taxes is less though.
My taxes would be less
for
sure.
Yeah.
But again, even when it wasn't, I did.
Okay.
And that for me, it's because it's the first fruits.
Yeah.
So I give to God before the government. God gets his before the government gets theirs.
Yeah. Yeah.
Personally, this is a personal thing.
Yeah. Yeah. That's good. What is your thoughts on prosperity preaching?
Like, as in the prosperity gospel, you got to give and then you'll get lots. I don't like it.
Okay.
But I think that God has called us to be prosperous. But prosperity in the Bible is more than just what we've called blessing and, stuff.
Yeah.
It's prosperity in the Bible is the fullness of life.
Come on.
And so I think, like, when it comes to that, I think we should be prosperous. And I think too, like, the whole idea that Jesus was poor is bogus.
Yeah.
Jesus had his ministry funded. And the garment that he had, if it was old, tattered rags, people wouldn't be trying to gamble for it. Right? You know what I'm talking about? And the fact that he had a seamless garment, those weren't cheap. And
so at the very least, he has some fly clothes.
He's got some fly clothes. He's got friends that are able to throw banquets, and he's at those banquets so much that he's accused of being a drunkard and a glutton. So I mean, those dudes aren't broke that are throwing parties. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I'm not saying like, so therefore let's all be rich.
Yes.
But I think the idea that like, we need to be poor and suffer isn't smart either.
Yeah. Yeah. I would agree. I think there's when you're talking about the prosperity gospel, it can get tense because a lot of folks have also allowed a lot of, I would say, things that are not biblical to creep into their ideologies.
100%. Well, and it's a gospel that really, if we get down to it, it really only benefits the one preaching it. And it doesn't really benefit those. Like that, the prosperity gospel is really big in Africa. And you have a lot of very, very poor people who are buying into it, and the one who's profiting is the pastor of that church.
Yeah.
Who's becoming very wealthy, and kind of, the same thing down here as well too.
Yeah.
And the prosperity gospel usually works on people that are looking for a get rich quick, solution in their life, and
God becomes that vehicle.
God becomes that vehicle.
Yeah, I like saying it. I don't think I don't believe in the prosperity gospel, but I do believe that the gospel will cause us to prosper.
100%.
I think if we live out the other side of being born again, God's laws, right? The more we live out God's laws and God's ways, the byproduct of God's laws and God's ways in this system. I'm not talking about China.
Sure.
I'm not talking about North Korea. I'm not talking about Pakistan.
Right.
I'm talking about in this system. If you live your life God's ways in this system, as of right now, you should be more restrained with how and what you spend your time on. You should be able to delay gratification.
Right.
You should be able to learn how to handle your money.
Yep.
You should be able to learn how to save. You should be able to learn all of these different things are byproducts of someone that's born again and has new desires. And so the idea of like being poor for the sake of all these different things. And in a lot of things that happen after that is that folks then assume that someone that is diligent about their finances instantly has an idolatry and love of money.
Right.
You know, those aren't the same things, right? And that's also built, if you think about it, that's also built on the appeal to motive fallacy, meaning that you are assuming someone that's born again is making an idolatry out of things. Right. Instead of assuming the best about that person. If someone's born again, they have new desires, new hearts, new trajectory. The things that they hated, they love now, the things of God. The things that they loved, their own sin, their own idols, they now hate. And so if we extended people charity and said, hey, like, Jeff, I know you're getting in shape, but like, I believe you're getting in shape because you're trying to steward God, to steward your body onto the glory of God. I don't think, oh, Jeff's trying to like take shirtless photos and like get more chicks. You know what I mean? Like, but that's what we do with money, is it not?
For sure.
Like, like someone is like, hey, I want to earn more in the marketplace. I want to be better. I want to provide for my family. I want to give more to the church. And we go, man, it's because you love money. Right. It's like, or they just want to be a good steward of their time, talent, and treasure. 100%. You know what I mean? And be more generous. So it's such an interesting thing that people, everyone knows everybody's motives. Yeah. But the scriptures say we get new motives. We get new desires. We do. Yeah. You know? So exactly. I don't know. Hey, this is a segment from our daily after party stream. Consider partnering with us online for as little as $5 a month to get access to these daily after party streams completely unedited. You'll also get access to our podcast as they are streamed live into the community before anyone else gets to see them, get to interact with our guests, get access to our private Discord server, and a discount code for our store for as little as $5 a month. Ultimately, that will help towards helping us continue contextualizing the gospel using media and podcast here on YouTube. All right, I'll see you over there. Peace.